welcome back to World Crisis Radio. So the word is that the CIA's gaggle of Benghazi rebels, the Benghazi Rebel Council, may well have an al-Qaeda majority. It may be top-heavy with terrorists, the younger brothers of the suicide bombers that killed American troops in Iraq. Senator McCain was just on TV saying, Gaddafi has American blood on his hands with Lockerbie. Well, Lockerbie was not Libya, Senator. Lockerbie was some Syrian rogues working with the CIA, but not Libya. That's a complete frame-up. Nobody in his right mind believes that. That was simply because the party line of those years was the mad dog of Tripoli. Remember, Reagan tried to kill him, killed his baby daughter, profile and courage for the great communicator, the Gipper, the baby killer of Tripoli, and didn't work. So that's the long-term imperialist commitment to get rid of Gaddafi. So we need to just look at a couple of other things going on in the world. The other countries, let's just look at Algeria. Algeria has played the China card. There are about 40,000 Chinese workers in Algeria, and they're building everything. They're building transit systems. They're building infrastructure. They're building all the rest. So the attempt to bring down Bouteflika will be an attempt to kick the Chinese out of Algeria. Algeria is the other country that has something they want. It is a leading oil producer. It is influential. It leads then into further into Africa. So other countries, Bahrain, repression going on. But again, the issue there was that Bahrain said, U.S., you can't use the Fifth Fleet base here to attack Iran. That is the beginning of it. And no account of Bahrain is sufficient without stressing that important fact. Now, in terms of the diplomatic ramifications, let us look at Russia. In Russia, we have had two conflicting statements, two conflicting points of view, I believe two factions, concerning the events in Libya. One is Vladimir Putin, the prime minister, the former president, who says the attack on Libya is a medieval crusade, and the UN resolution is a call to a medieval crusade. This seems to be well-founded. Putin is on firm ground with that statement. But then we have President Medvedev responding to that, criticizing Putin, saying it is wrong to say that this is an aggression against Libya, that Libya is being attacked because of things that the Libyan government has actually done. And he even went so far as to say it's possible that Russian peacekeeping troops might be sent into Libya. Well, it's clear that the Russian peacekeeping troops would not be welcome in Libya. Now, there will be a presidential election in Russia next year, and maybe democracy may be coming to Russia in a more, what can we say, a more dramatic form than we've been accustomed to. We may indeed have a real contested election between Medvedev on the one side with this line on Libya and Putin on the other side with his views on Libya. I think it ought to be clear to everyone that Putin is far closer to the attitude of the average Russian, and I think to the average, even the average member of the Russian nomenclatura of the ruling class. The majority thereof, I think, would share an anti-Western consensus based not on prejudice but on facts, by realities, by the need to defend their country and to maintain clarity on all of this. Notice that the Medvedev faction includes such people as Anatoly Chubais, the arch-privatizer of the International Monetary Fund, the apostle of shock therapy, IMF shock therapy in Russia in the 1990s that went so far towards destroying the Russian economy and setting the development of Russia back by a decade. Now, the form in which this division occurs shows itself also in the Russian diplomatic corps. You've seen people, the various Libyans who have been bribed at the UN, right? The Libyan at the UN going over to the West, going over to the United States, defecting, turning his coat. Interestingly, we have the Russian ambassador to Libya, Vladimir Chamov, Chamov. This is reported on the Foreign Policy website, I believe. Chamov has caused a stir in the Russian press by sending a telegram to Medvedev saying that Chamov, as a Russian ambassador to Libya, Chamov says, "It is my responsibility here in Libya to defend the interests of the Russian Federation." And he says, "It is not in Russia's interest to lose a partner of the rank and importance of Libya." And the accounts, again, point to the $4 billion in contracts of Russia in Libya, which are extant, including a $3.1 billion contract, which I've written up on my website, the Russian railroads building that coastal railway. If we could finally get a railway from Tripoli to Benghazi and Tobruk and across to Cairo and, of course, towards Tunis and Algiers on the other side, that's a huge part of that African railway system that the world needs. And it might also be the beginning of the end of this tribalism, because as Cavour, right, Camillo Benso Cavour, rightly wrote 150 or more years ago in the process of Italian unification, the railway is a key to national unity. It's certainly the American story with the Transcontinental Railway, the Russian story with the Trans-Siberian, even the Austrian with Friedrich List. So Chamov is also rumored to have said some very harsh things about Medvedev. According to some accounts, Chamov criticized Medvedev very, very vigorously, and he has denied saying those things, so I won't repeat them. But he does stand by his declaration. It is not in the interest of the Russian Federation to lose the Gaddafi government in Libya as a partner, and I think that is beyond question. So we can imagine a very vivacious discussion. Now, in terms of other splits, if we go back to 2003, we will see that the key to European resistance against the insanity of the Bush-Cheney neocon Iraq war was the unity of France and Germany. At that time, it was Chirac of France and Gerhard Schröder of Germany, and those were the good old days. That was something, at least not totally antithetical to the de Gaulle-Adenauer partnership, which along with De Gasperi was so key to building modern Europe. When France and Germany go together, that's Europe. It can be Europe with all kinds of blemishes, for sure, but at least that's recognizable as Europe. It's a European Europe, the Rhine, and then what can be built around that. Now today, the German-French axis has been shattered. The Germans have distanced themselves more and more, much to their credit, from the insane nuclear adventure, military adventure, nuclear maybe later on, the insane military adventure in Libya. The Germans don't have a veto, so they abstain. They should have voted against it. But as a NATO state, that's already a lot. And just this week, the Germans have said, we're taking our Navy back out of NATO command, I think for the first time. We don't want our Navy to be used to kill Arabs in Libya, whereas the French, of course, are out in front leading the charge with the unstable and erratic Sarkozy. When you see France and Germany, you see Europe. Now, when you see France and Great Britain, you see imperialism. You see Suez, 1956. You see neo-colonialism. And that is what you now have. Various French experts point to the fact that the French-German axis is in ruins over this Libya issue, and we now have France and Britain. And if we go back to King Edward VII and what happened to France in World War I and what happened to France in World War II as a result of the British appeasement policy, you will see this is bad for France. So France, pull back. Think again. Time to think about changing course. Go back to a traditional French policy. So, Tarpley.net, Webster G. Tarpley on Twitter. We'll be back next week. Keep in touch. And time to get out of Libya.